Dear members of the congregation, Beth, Tikvah, and our wonderful guests, tonight we came together to engage in the soul-stirring service of Kol Nidre. As the timeless melodies envelop us, we find ourselves at the threshold of a spiritual journey, a 25-hour period dedicated to introspection, repentance, and renewal. But what is Kol Nidre, really? The name translates to all vows, and it is this ancient Aramaic prayer where we collectively annul and release ourselves from vows we may make willingly or unwillingly in the coming year. At first glance, it might seem peculiar to begin the holiest day of the Jewish year with such a legal formula focused on vows and commitments. Yet upon deeper reflection, this ritual is about far more than mere words or contracts. It's about the transformative power of forgiveness. We often think of Kol Nidre as something done for us, for ourselves. I am released from the vows, hence it is beneficial for me, right? Today, I'd like to focus on how Kol Nidre encourages us to forgive each other. We all make vows, big and small, that we sometimes can't keep. By annulling these commitments, we're not just letting ourselves off the hook. We are making room in our hearts to forgive others for the promises that they might break. For me, personally, the forgiveness was never really a big issue. I've noticed that I don't tend to hold on to grudges. I might be disappointed or angry for a few days or a couple of weeks tops. Then my mind seems to naturally release the issue. It's not that I'm a paragon of virtue. I just can't be bothered to remember that I was resentful about someone. But I'm a firm believer in the psychological wisdom of our tradition. And if it says that you should forgive on Yom Kippur, that's what you should do. So I decided to do my cheshbon nefesh, accounting of the soul, and really honestly answer the question, is there anyone I can't forgive? I investigated my soul to discover a nagging feeling in my heart that was something I could not let go of. I can tell you that it was so unpleasant to face my hidden anger at another person rather than self-righteously just think that I had forgiven everyone. My mind really didn't want to go that way. And today I want to share my story, hoping that it may inspire some of you to explore the hidden bitterness in your soul and suggest Kol Nidre as a tool of forgiveness. So once upon a time, I had a friend, and we were friends for over 20 years. I know many of you have friends of 40, 50, 60, even 70 years, maybe more. But for my span of my life, 20 years is pretty much the longest it could be. Our friendship survived through time and through distance. We both were born and grew up in Russia, but often lived in different cities and even different countries. But we remained the most caring and trusting friends of each other. He has been on the journey with me through my entire grown-up life. I shared my victories and my failures with him. If something happened, I knew I could always talk to him, and he would always support me. And yet, when the war in Ukraine began, he stopped talking to me. And I'm sorry that all my stories are about the war these days. When the war is over, I will tell you something else. But this is the story. Through 20 months of war, he did not ask me if I was well or if my family in Kiev was safe. He disappeared from my life, and I could not forgive it. I could not find a reason why I deserved such treatment. How could he leave me without friendly support at the most difficult time of my life? The more I thought about it, the more anger was boiling in me. I realized that I was replaying our last conversation over and over in my mind, searching for clues and signs, anything that could help me to make sense of his silence. Each thought of his absence acted like fuel on a fire, making the blaze of my anger more intense and more consuming. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the anger was becoming a part of me, ingrained in my identity. But Yom Kippur, it's time for forgiveness, and I was determined to find a way to forgive. So instead of giving in to emotions and being overwhelmed with this anger, I decided to get to the bottom of it and find the reason I was resentful about the behavior of my friend. I asked myself, what was that really that was bothering me, for real? And every time I looked deeper into my soul, I saw one thing: injustice. It was screaming at me. What he has done to me was wrong, it was unfair, he betrayed me. Injustice, 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 all I could see and feel. The feeling of righteous indignation is very difficult to conquer, if not impossible at all. People happen to be very sensitive to the injustice done to them, less so the injustice we bring upon others. So, weirdly enough, when I think about it, I think about scientific experiment. Always comes to my mind when I think about the human perception of injustice. In the year 2003, American researcher in the field of the development of cognitive processes and cooperation and reciprocity, Sarah Brosnan, and her American-Dutch colleague Frans de Waal, behavior biologist and ethologist, conducted an experiment on Capuchin monkeys. In this test, Bronson and de Waal handed monkeys a pebble. The monkey was trained to then return the stone in exchange for a reward, a slice of a cucumber. So imagine there are two monkeys like in the cages, and they see each other. And both are given a stone, and they return the stone, and then they get their reward, a piece of cucumber. If both monkeys got a cucumber slice in return, the animals completed this task 95%, almost perfect. You give them a stone, they give it back, they get a treat very well. But if one monkey got a grape instead of a cucumber, which is a tastier treat, while the other received a lesser reward of a cucumber chunk, the slighted animal would cooperate only 60% of the time, so it decreases. And if one monkey got grape without doing anything at all, not completing any task, the partner who had completed the trade fairly and got poor cucumber became very annoyed, cooperated only like 20% at the time. In some cases, the monkey would scream and jump in the cage and even throw the cucumber back at the person who gave it to the monkey. So there is a video, by the way, of this experiment, very entertaining to watch. But what is interesting is that a monkey in isolation is happy to eat either a grape or a slice of cucumber. It's only when a monkey sees another monkey getting a better treat. They hate getting the short end of the stick. Humans react essentially in the same way. If I feel that injustice was done to me in comparison to another person, it's very difficult to overcome it. Like monkeys, we are ready to jump around and throw cucumbers because injustice was done to us. It's an instinct of a primate that overrides our conscious decisions to forgive. That is why we might have an intention, noble intention, to forgive someone on Yom Kippur, but even if we try, later this burning sensation of unfairness may come back, and we might, year after year, on Yom Kippur, attempt to forgive, and still our feelings come back after the high holidays beyond our control. Did that happen to you? Okay. Happens to me all the time. So what does Kol Nidre have to do with all of this? When I look back at my life, I notice that maybe several people have done something kind of injustice to me, but it was not hard for me to let go of it. Why did I forgive them, but not my friend? It took me a long time to reflect on it. Why him? Why him? And I understood that it was because other people were not that important to me. The reason I was angry with my friend was because I still missed him and still loved him. What a paradox. It is the love that I had in my heart that caused my resentment. And when I realized it, I needed to forgive him, because that's what we do for people we love. But easier said than done. The feeling of injustice did not disappear automatically, yet I made my decision to reach forgiveness and came to the conclusion that the only way to negate injustice, the only way to do it, is mercy. Mercy is your irrational decision to forgive misdeeds that cannot be forgiven otherwise. In Kabbalah, in Jewish mysticism, God is imagined to have polar opposite qualities that balance each other. So on the tree of life, we see on one side the sphera of judgment, or gevura, mirrored by the sphera of mercy and hesed. And it's believed that human actions, they can influence the manifestation of these divine attributes in this world. They are polar opposite to each other. They negate each other and balance each other. In the prayer, Avinu Malkeinu, we sing, Avinu Malkeinu Chanenu Vaneinu Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim Asei Manu Tzedakah V'Chesed V'Hoshienu. Our Father, our King, be gracious to us and answer us, for we have no meritorious deeds. Deal mercifully and kindly with us and deliver us. We acknowledge that forgiveness from God comes purely out of mercy, this divine quality, and not due to our meritorious deeds. We acknowledge that we actually do not deserve it, rationally speaking. We do not deserve the deliverance. We do not say, oh, I was a good person this year, so forgive me. No, we say, I have nothing to offer. Please forgive me out of mercy. We ask God to override the decree despite our sins. So mercy in this case is against the fair judicial verdict. Therefore, Kol Nidre is not just about our vows. It's also about God's vows or decrees. When we annul our vows, we are asking God to do the same, override the decrees that may have been set against us, to override the quality of justice with that of mercy. In other words, we are asking God to make room for irrational mercy. And I believe that we should do it ourselves if we want to be unreasonably, irrationally forgiven by God. We should forgive others despite the feeling of injustice. And Kol Nidre, when I heard it, and I was praying, and I thought about my friend who wronged me, I made a decision. I released his vows. I turned the table, so to speak. It's not about my vows. It's about me freeing another person from the promises that he could not keep. and I let him go. I released him from my expectations. He did not do what, in my opinion, and Fred should have done, but I free him from the vows of friendship. He has no obligations to me. He doesn't owe me anything, and thus there is nothing to be angry about. There is no injustice left. And this is the way of mercy. I finally felt peace, and my anger vanished. Compassion isn't just something we receive from a merciful God, but something we must also extend to others. It becomes an ethical call to action, encouraging us to exercise compassion in our own lives, even when it feels undeserved. Because if God judged us for our deeds according to the Torah, no one would withstand God's presence. As it is said in the Psalms, if you keep account of sins, O Lord, who will survive? If we ask God to go beyond the law and forgive us, we should practice it ourselves. In order to receive mercy, we have to show it to others. And nothing can bring mercy into this world except human deeds. So in this service, I suggest, called Nidre service, I suggest reflecting not only on the vows that we made, promises we couldn't keep, or wrongdoings we committed. Let us think about whom we can release from vows out of pure mercy, not a rational argument, because rationally injustice cannot be forgiven. Try not to think about the benefits that it will bring to you. You will surely feel better after you release someone's vows to you, but that should not be your motivation. Don't do it because there is a logical reason to do it, but do it because that's what God does for us. Choose compassion, drawing from a well deeper than your own emotions or reasoning, but from the divine chesed, from mercy. As we look ahead to a new year, let us carry this expansive sense of compassion forward, recognizing that sometimes love and mercy don't have to make sense to make a difference. Let us embrace the freedom to be irrationally merciful, knowing that in those choices we come closer to God and perhaps, tip the scales of judgment in favor of mercy for ourselves and the world. May we be released from our vows and release others who wronged us. May we all be blessed to have such love and compassion in our hearts, and may we be worthy of God's compassion. Gmar Chatima Tova. May we all be inscribed and sealed in the book of life.